It was supposed to be just another flight. Passengers boarded with a mix of excitement and routine, some eager for their journey, others seasoned travelers unfazed by the process. The atmosphere buzzed with the usual sounds of an international flight: conversations, the rustling of bags, and the occasional intercom announcement. Malaysian Airlines Flight 370, a Boeing 707, one of the most dependable aircraft in the skies, was prepped for departure. With its sleek design and cutting-edge technology, it stood as a testament to modern aviation. The flight took off from Kuala Lumpur International Airport at 12:41 a.m. on March 8, 2014, bound for Beijing, China. The night was clear and the takeoff smooth as the plane ascended into the night sky, leaving behind the glittering lights of the city. On board were 227 passengers from 15 nations and 12 crew members. Among them were families, business travelers, and tourists, each with their own stories and destinations. The experienced crew moved through the cabin, ensuring everyone was comfortable and safe. The flight was under the command of Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, a seasoned pilot with over 18,000 flight hours. His co-pilot, First Officer Farik Abdul Hamid, was also highly skilled with over 2,700 flight hours. Together, they formed a competent and reliable team. Everything seemed normal. The first leg of the journey was uneventful. The plane reached its cruising altitude, and passengers settled in. Some watched movies, others read books, and a few drifted off to sleep, lulled by the gentle hum of the engines. The Boeing 777 soared through the night sky, its lights twinkling against the darkness. The vast expanse of the sky stretched out before it, an endless journey through the night. It maintained its designated flight path, communicating routinely with air traffic control. The exchanges were standard, filled with the usual jargon and confirmations, a testament to the routine nature of the flight. Then, at 1:19 a.m., as MH370 approached Vietnamese airspace, something changed. The unthinkable began. The plane's transponder, which communicates its position to air traffic control, was turned off. This was the first sign that something was wrong. The plane deviated from its planned route. It made a sharp turn to the west, a maneuver that was not part of its flight plan. This sudden change in direction was alarming and unexpected. It veered sharply west, away from its intended course. The deviation was significant, taking the plane off its path to Beijing and into uncharted territory. This was not a minor course correction. It was a deliberate and drastic change. This deviation, a stark departure from the flight plan, set off alarm bells for air traffic controllers in Kuala Lumpur. They watched in confusion and concern as the plane's signal disappeared from their radar screens. Frantic calls to the cockpit went unanswered. The silence was deafening, a void filled with growing anxiety and fear. The controllers tried repeatedly to make contact, but there was no response from the crew. MH370 vanished from radar screens, leaving behind a chilling silence and a growing sense of dread. The plane had simply disappeared, as if swallowed by the night. The reality of the situation began to sink in, and the gravity of the mystery took hold. The world watched, horrified, as news of the missing plane spread like wildfire. What happened to MH370? Where did it go? These questions echoed around the globe, sparking a frenzy of speculation and concern. These questions, simple yet terrifying, gripped the globe and launched one of the most baffling aviation mysteries in history. The search for answers began immediately, with nations around the world joining forces to locate the missing aircraft. Theories abounded, ranging from mechanical failure to hijacking, but the truth remained elusive. The disappearance of MH370 became a symbol of the unknown, a haunting reminder of the mysteries that still exist in our modern world. The final communication from MH370 to air traffic control was brief, yet deeply unsettling. It marked the start of one of aviation's most baffling enigmas, a moment that would forever be etched in history. At 1:19 a.m., as the aircraft exited Malaysian airspace, a routine handoff occurred between the cockpit and air traffic control. This standard procedure, a daily occurrence, was about to take a dark turn. A voice, believed to be Captain Zahari, calmly transmitted, "Good night. Malaysian 370. These words, meant to signal a routine transition, have since taken on a haunting significance. Good night, Malaysian 370. No distress signal, no hint of trouble. The calmness of the message masked the chaos that was about to ensue. No distress signal, no hint of trouble. Just those final, haunting words. Then, an eerie silence. The kind of silence that sends chills down your spine, signaling that something is terribly wrong. Just those final, haunting words. Then, silence. The plane's transponder, which relays its location and altitude, went dark. This was the first sign that something was terribly amiss. The plane's transponder, which relays its location and altitude, went dark. This sudden loss of communication was alarming, but it was only the beginning. Minutes later, the Aircraft Communications Addressing and Reporting System, or ACARS, which automatically sends data about the plane's systems to the ground, also ceased transmitting. Minutes later, the Aircraft Communications Addressing and Reporting System, or ACARS, which automatically sends data about the plane's systems to the ground, also ceased transmitting. This was no coincidence. It suggested a deliberate act, a calculated move to sever all ties with the outside world. This sudden and deliberate shutdown of communication systems suggested a deliberate act rather than a catastrophic failure. It was as if someone wanted the plane to disappear, to vanish without a trace. The lack of communication from the cockpit fueled speculation. Was it a hijacking? A deliberate act by the pilot? Or had something catastrophic happened so quickly that the crew had no time to send a distress call? The lack of communication from the cockpit fueled speculation. Was it a hijacking? A deliberate act by the pilot? Or had something catastrophic happened so quickly that the crew had no time to send a distress call? Theories abounded, each more unsettling than the last. A deliberate act by the pilot? The idea that someone with such responsibility could intentionally lead the plane into oblivion was almost too much to bear. Yet, the evidence seemed to point in that direction. Or had something catastrophic happened so quickly that the crew had no time to send a distress call? The possibility of a sudden, catastrophic event was equally terrifying. Or had something catastrophic happened so quickly that the crew had no time to send a distress call? The silence from the cockpit only deepened the mystery, adding to the growing sense of unease and disbelief. The world watched and waited, hoping for answers that never came. The silence from the cockpit only deepened the mystery, adding to the growing sense of unease and disbelief. It was a silence that spoke volumes, a silence that left the world grappling with questions that may never be answered. The disappearance of MH370 remains one of the most perplexing and haunting mysteries in aviation history. A chilling reminder of how quickly the familiar can become the unfathomable. As MH370 vanished from civilian radar, military radar picked up its trail for another hour. This unexpected extension of the radar signal offered a glimmer of hope for investigators, but it also added layers of complexity to the already perplexing mystery. The data revealed a plane moving unpredictably, with sudden changes in direction and speed that defied logical explanation, almost as if it were being controlled by someone unfamiliar with its systems. These erratic maneuvers hinted at either a struggle in the cockpit or a pilot who was disoriented and unsure of their actions. MH370 flew back over the densely populated Malay Peninsula, where it could have been easily spotted, yet it remained unseen by the public eye. Crossing over the northeastern state of Kelantan before veering northwest towards the Andaman Sea. This route was puzzling, as it took the plane away from its intended destination and into a vast expanse of ocean. The plane's altitude fluctuated dramatically, adding to the confusion and concern of those tracking its path, at times climbing to 40,000 feet and then dropping as low as 5,000 feet. These extreme altitude changes were not only dangerous, but also highly unusual for a commercial flight. These erratic movements did little to clarify the situation. Instead, they created a chaotic picture that was difficult to interpret. Instead, they only deepened the mystery. Investigators were left with more questions than answers, each new piece of data adding to the enigma. Was the plane trying to evade radar? This theory suggested a deliberate attempt to disappear, but the reasons behind such an action remained unclear. Was it experiencing a catastrophic technical malfunction? If so, what kind of failure could cause such erratic behavior without completely disabling the aircraft? Or was there something more sinister at play? The possibility of foul play or hijacking could not be ruled out, adding a darker dimension to the mystery. The radar data, while providing a glimpse into the plane's final movements, offered no clear answers. It was a trail of breadcrumbs that led to more questions, raised more questions than answers. Each piece of data seemed to contradict the last, creating a puzzle with no clear solution. It painted a picture of a plane seemingly being flown deliberately, yet the purpose behind these actions remained elusive, but with no clear destination in mind. The erratic flight path suggested a journey with no end, a ghostly voyage into the unknown. The mystery of MH370's disappearance continued to haunt investigators, leaving them to ponder the many possibilities and search for the elusive truth.